so hear me out for a second. But ever since I was a pre-med back in university trying to get into medical school, and you guys know how difficult and competitive the medical school admission process is, one of the things that always made me upset was when one of my professors would go in front of their class and tell everyone about the importance of getting a good night's sleep. But this all came to a head one day in my final year of pre-med in undergrad, where we had a massive assignment due for our thesis project, coupled with 2 midterm exams, coupled with, at the time, I was volunteering at the hospital. I was working 2 days on the weekends with my part-time job. I was commuting to and from school. It was like 2 hours one way and 2 hours home. Then I had my girlfriend to see and my friends and my family. Our professor came to the front of the class and wished us all the best on our final little crunch period that we had for midterms and this project, and then said, in addition to the good luck, that we should all be getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, because that's what's recommended. And I sat there like, what are you even talking about? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Gianluca, aka Dr. Calcagno, aka I'm somebody that just came off of about a 2 to 2.5 month block of getting very little sleep. We're talking in the neighborhood of between 2 to 5 hours of sleep per night for an extended period of time, as I was preparing for my Step 2 CK exam for the USMLE that I also was doing in addition to residency and running my business and taking part in the Movember charity and everything else that was going on. And what I'm here today to do is not tell people that getting no sleep is something that's healthy for you. It's not. Getting no sleep is really not good. But unfortunately, especially with the pre-med and medical culture that we have right now, it is often necessary, especially when you take into account the many responsibilities that all of us have when we're going through the process. If you're trying to get straight A marks and you're trying to hold up a part-time job and you're trying to do all of these different things, unfortunately, you can't always get a good night's sleep. And I know many of you have probably seen that for yourself. And this is not just something that's limited to people trying to get into medical school or doctors. Anyone that's trying to do something, to try and move from the position that they're at to something else and to chase after a goal of theirs will often come to the realization that sometimes there's just not enough hours in a day to get everything done. And what I want to do today, and what I told myself that I would do if I ever made it this far, is not to pretend that you could find a creative solution out of it. You can't always just hack your schedule and create more hours in a day to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep per day. So what we're going to be doing today is taking a harm reduction approach, and I'm going to be sharing 5 tips that I've used and continue to use to operate on very little sleep for short periods of time when I absolutely have to. So tip number 1, the first thing that I do when I'm trying to go long periods of time without sleeping for a goal, this is not for fun, is to define what it is that I'm trying to do, and to define it in such a way that my goal is now more powerful than my body's physiologic need for sleep. Your body does not like to stay awake for long periods of time without sleep. You feel crummy. You can't move in the same way you want to do. Your energy's not there. You're a little bit more sad and depressed than normal. Your appetite kind of does weird things. Sometimes you're more hungry. Sometimes you're less hungry. And in my most recent example, with the Step 2 exam, I knew this was going to be a very difficult study process for me in addition to everything else that was going on. I knew that I was going to have to stay awake for long periods of time. So I told hundreds of people, my friends, people on YouTube, people on social media, that I was going to be doing this. And I made a resolution with myself. I wrote it out on a sheet of paper that if I failed this exam, it would have been for a second time, that I was going to have to make a video on YouTube telling people that I failed again. And in this sense, I defined my goal as such to keep myself accountable. I didn't want to stay awake for long periods of time without sleep, but I didn't want to have to fail publicly even more than that. And in doing so, in phrasing your goal as something that you need to do and not just something that you have to do or want to do, that's the first step in really creating a plan that's going to work for you. And I did that when I was studying for the MCAT. I did that when I was in undergrad, and I told my friends that, hey, I'm going to be applying to medical school next year and I'm studying for my grades. You want to surround yourself with a circle of friends or colleagues that are like-minded to you and that will hold you accountable. And in this sense, defining your goal and giving yourself a reason to push yourself through the next 2 months, 3 months, define that amount of time as well, so you have something to look forward to after. But that's how you set yourself up to get started down whatever path you're doing. If you're serious about it, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a student, whatever the process is, you need a goal, you need a length of time, you need to tell people about it, and you have to hold yourself accountable. Now, the second tip here is the importance of exercise. And the importance of exercise here for me is twofold. The first of which being that multiple studies, science has reproduced time and time again, that you feel better when you're exercising, whether that's aerobic or anaerobic or a combination of the two of them. I've seen it for myself, I've heard it from my patients. Exercise in some length of time is better than exercise in no length of time, not doing anything. And in that aspect, being able to get into the gym, to go for a walk, to be outside a little bit, in addition to all the other stressful stuff you have going on, almost counterbalances a little bit some of the negative side effects that you start to feel after going long periods of time without sleep. But then the other part about this too is that going to the gym, going for a run, lifting some weights, actually helps, in my opinion, to help wake me up a little bit, especially after a long day at the hospital. For example, when I was studying, I would get to work some days at around 8 o'clock. I'd work 8 to 5, and then when I got home, or 8 to 6 in some cases, afterwards when I got home, I wasn't ready to just go and start studying right away. And what I did instead was push myself to get into the gym. I was so tired. But if I could push myself to get into the gym after a 45-minute or a 1-hour workout, I was a little bit more ready to go and do things afterwards. I was definitely more alert, and I was able to actually retain other knowledge after that, because if I didn't get in there first, right after a long day at work, you are not in a mindset, you're not able to push yourself through. I would always recommend a quick workout before getting down to study if you have a natural break from your regular job to whatever is going to be coming after that. Tip number 3 is the importance of strategic naps, and what I mean by that is exactly like the name suggests. If I found, for example, that I sat down to study and I just wasn't focused, for whatever reason, I tried to work out and not even that was able to push me through, rather than struggling for 3 hours to try and just make it through a topic high level, I'd realize that my studying is no longer efficient. I'm going to sit down, take a 45-minute nap, wake back up, and then get back down to work. Similarly, when it was time for the weekend to come, I would reserve one day on the weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, whichever day I wasn't working if I had shifts going on, and I still do that to this day. And I try my best to get in as much sleep as possible on that weekend day. Studies have shown time and again that this doesn't actually get you out of your sleep deficit, but that's not what we're trying to do here. You're just trying to temporarily make yourself feel a little bit better so that you could push yourself through a little bit more studying, a little bit more hard work, a little bit more of whatever else you have going on until your next strategic nap break where you get to take in some sleep. Now, on any particular day, I try to limit the amount of complete 24-hour sessions I go without sleeping. At minimum, I like to sleep somewhere between 2 and 5 hours per day. Some days it was closer to 2 or 1.5, but I always try to take at least a little bit of a nap. Individual differences will vary. Some people say that once they go to sleep, they have a hard time waking back up and getting back to work. So you're really gonna have to fine tune this one yourself, but it is one that in my case, I found that I operate best with about 2 to 5 hours of sleep per day in some sort of breakup. If I'm gonna sleep an hour here, 45 minutes there, the total will somewhere be between 2 and 5 hours. Tip number 4 is about the value of stimulants. And this one here, I really have to talk about because I remember more so in undergrad, to be honest, the pervasiveness of study drugs that existed around me. And I'm not going to pretend to be naive in this video. Many of you that are going through the pre-med and any sort of process right now just know what people are doing to give themselves that little bit of an edge to stay awake for longer periods of time. I would strongly advise against it. This is one firm foot in the sand. Don't do that, period. There is no additional thing I want to tag on here. Instead, I opt for typical black coffee is what I use. And if I really have to, I'll opt for about a half scoop of pre-workout if I'm going to the gym in and around that time. I just find that for myself, I've never really needed anything past traditional black coffee. And if there is a reason why you do need something else, you have ADHD, there's any other medical conditions involved, go speak to your doctor. But for the variety of people, this is just a PSA that from myself, some of my friends around me, I've seen that there are negative consequences to some of these study drugs in many cases, and I think that the majority of people could get by with coffee. Now, there is something to be said that coffee is also not healthy for you, but trying to have 2, 3, 4 cups of hot coffee per day, If we're looking at a harm reduction approach here, will for many people be a lot less harmful to them than some high doses of other recreationally abused stimulants. So yes to coffee, no to prescription meds if you can. Just a quick side note though, I did see that my coffee intake really spiraled out of control during my most recent study process. For me, I get the jitters after about 3 cups a day. I was going about 4 cups a day. Black coffee, no sugar, just brew it yourself, take it into work. And now I'm really dialing it back. I've been doing about a cup to a cup and a half per day. It's been working a lot better for me. So if you're going to titrate up, just make sure that you titrate back down on the other side of the exam or whatever else you have going on. Finally, the last tip, tip number 5, is what do you do with the rest of your life if you're going long periods of time with sleeping minimal hours? And how do you function at work? How do I function in the hospital? What's the tip there? And the fact of the matter is that if you're not sleeping, your usual recommended amount of sleep for everyone, and I don't give specific numbers here because there are ranges. Some people do better on 6 hours, some people do better on 8 hours. As you get older into 50s and 60s and 70s, you do need less sleep, and that's a very interesting topic for the future. But basically, if you are operating at a sleep deficit, you're exhausted, you're going to notice it in your regular work. You're going to have a little bit of brain fog. You're going to be a little bit slow in your reaction times. And my advice here, number 1, is to always stay busy, whether that's at work, whether that's at school, whether that's at any other function that you're to attend. What I found, I was on emergency medicine when I was studying for this exam, for example, when everything was busy in the emerge, I really had no problems at all staying awake and staying moving. The adrenaline was high, I was on full alert and reacting well to everything that I needed to do. And it was really only during lulls, periods where there was nothing really going on, that I really felt like I was getting tired. So my advice here is to always try and stay busy, if possible, if you are going to be operating at a sleep deficit. Now, on the other side of that, you are an actual safety concern when you are going long periods of time without sleep. And in that sense, frequently, after I was done a shift, for example, if it was late at night, I would sleep for about 45 minutes or an hour. That would be my sleep time before I got in my car and drove myself home afterwards. A couple times, actually, I had one of my buddies drive me home from the hospital if I was really going that long without sleep. Safety first, don't put yourself or other people at risk. This whole video is a harm reduction approach, and that is my advice about maintaining functionality and everything else that's going on. So now, in summary, and in watching this video back, it seems kind of strange because none of this is advice that I would be giving any one of my patients when they came to see me in my office. And I want to set that up with this disclaimer. This is not medical advice. What this is me acknowledging that I refuse to be a hypocrite. And ever since back in university, and unfortunately ever since then, every now and then you come across a point of time where you do, in my case, have to go and do things that are a little bit less healthy. Giving up sleep is linked to increased risks of cancer, hypertension, a few other things as well. And if you're going to do it, if you have to do it, if you're going to do it anyways, I'm not going to be the one to stop you. I acknowledge that, yeah, frequently in my career, there have been periods where I needed to do it to push myself and become a better person in the long run, both for my patients and for myself. And I'm not going to stop anyone else that is also trying to do similar things, to push themselves a little bit forward, to get into school, to propel their business. Sometimes you have to do things that are very difficult and things that many people don't want to do. But if you recognize that you have to do them and you see that there's no other way, these are some of the strategies that I've learned through my 10 plus years now trying to be a doctor and going through all the education process right now. So hopefully some of these tips were able to help you guys. Please take in mind, I'm not condoning this stuff. I'm just giving you an insight into everything that I was doing. And on the other side of all this now, I am sleeping much, much better now. I don't have to worry about any board exams for at least the next couple months. And I am loving it. I feel so much better now that I am getting regular night's sleep. So please, there's your plug for that. If you guys have any comments or suggestions or tips that work for you, or if you had a problem with me making this video, I feel like as time goes on, I am going to be making a few spicy videos like this and try and share tips, because I think that I would have appreciated someone just telling me the way things were, rather than repeating blanket statements of get your sleep, even though I'm going to give you all these assignments and things like that. That's not beneficial, in my opinion. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. We will see you all in the next one, and everyone take care.